Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of YouTube, it gives me great pleasure to inform you that Ryan Chattaway's 24-hour movie marathon challenge is on. For those of you who are recent subscribers to my channel and perhaps not familiar with Ryan Chattaway or some of the people who do the movie marathon, this is an annual event that usually gets underway in March. People may do it in March, they may do it in April, they may do it in May, depending on their circumstance, but the gist of it is Ryan Chattaway, who created the criteria 5 years ago, sets out certain types of films that one is to watch amongst as many as they can within a single 24-hour period. Now, the rules don't necessarily stipulate that those 24 hours all have to come all at once. The challenge, obviously, would be to do all that in one single 24-hour period, stay awake and watch movies for 24 hours, but there are many people who simply aren't able to do that. In fact, one of Ryan's most avid supporters is Luke, whose channel is called Razor Wire Reviews, and his marathons normally last about 4 or 5 days. Over the course of that time, he will watch 24 hours worth of movies and then cut it all together. So apparently that's all okay. I didn't participate in the marathon last year because I wasn't able to, but I'm planning on doing it this year. But I am not going to be doing a solid 24-hour viewing. Instead, I'm going to basically divide my marathon in half. I'll probably watch between 8 and 12 hours worth of movies the first day and then make up the rest of it the second day. One of my movies itinerary will probably include one theatrical movie. There is a particular theatrical movie that I think would be fun to see on that marathon, and I may knock that off first and then move on to the home viewing portion. So the criteria as of right now, I have it here, but of course if you'd like to see Ryan's video, I encourage you to do so and to subscribe to him. The link to his video is below in the description. So, as far as the criteria goes, obviously it's 24 hours of movie watching, not 24 hours worth of running times when all is said and done, although you could do that if you wanted to, but I don't know why you would. You'd be watching movies for a heck of a lot longer than 24 hours because you'd need to take breaks. But that you watch movies consistently over the course of a 24-hour period. That is how I interpret the rules anyway, and I think that Ryan would be fine with that. So his criteria this year is to watch at least one film with a running time of 180 minutes or more. That's 3 hours or longer. One animated movie, one foreign language movie, one silent film, and one box office flop. Now that's only 5 movies right there, and you know, you could squeeze in probably 10 within 24 hours, if probably more if you pick movies that are short enough. He also has an additional bonus option, which is to watch a trilogy of movies at some point in the course of your marathon, to watch 3 movies that all come from a particular series, in effect a trilogy. I actually did something like that the last time I did this marathon. In the spring of 2014, I watched basically, I think, 5 X-Men movies. Yes, Days of Future Past was due to come out like in June, and so I decided that in April I was going to watch basically, you know, the 5 X-Men movies that sort of led up to Days of Future Past. And I also used to own an entire trilogy of Lethal Weapon movies, Lethal Weapon 1, 2, and 3, but I got rid of them last year because I never actually watched that set. I really wished I'd hung on to it because you know, that would have been great for this marathon, but I didn't. But I have a number of ideas already picked out. In fact, I just rewatched Ryan Chattaway's marathon from last year, and it gave me a couple of good ideas for movies to satisfy the foreign language and 3-hour entries. But aside from that, I still have to make some choices as far as that goes. I'd like to include another link below. That is, if it's still working, I have to check it and see, because this is something I looked at, 2 years ago, the last time I did this marathon. A website that actually sorts movies by running time. If you're looking for a movie with a particular running time to fill a gap in your schedule in the marathon, then that's probably the place to look. I know I have it somewhere, and if it's still working, if the link is still working, I'll leave it in the description below as well. Now, the first time I did this marathon, I actually wasn't doing it on schedule with the others. It had taken place in the spring, and I basically sort of discovered it in October and decided to do the marathon in December. So what I did was, to help narrow down the selection more, I looked at previous marathons and found more criteria, more guidelines, and included them so that I could sort of, just to sort of narrow the selection a little bit. And some of the previous criteria for past marathons have been a movie you have no interest in seeing. You just pick a movie that you don't want to see and watch it for the marathon. A random movie that you haven't seen before. An underrated movie. A classic that you haven't seen before. Some of these are, could serve multiple categories, I guess. A TV episode or special, something from television, not a theatrical film. One movie from the year that you were born, in that case it would be 1973. One favorite movie, one personal favorite, and one movie that won the Best Picture Oscar. Now, those are all previous criteria. They aren't this year's criteria, but if you're, interested in narrowing down your choices for the marathon, those would be some good categories to satisfy. Now, Luke Ryan, as I mentioned before, is a big supporter of Ryan Chattaway's marathon, and he does epic videos, and so I would certainly encourage you to take a look at one of his, because his are great fun, and they include comedic sketches, as well as the usual just popping in a movie and talking about it. That's the thing that the whole sort of purpose of this thing is to record yourself with a camera watching these movies, or at least talking about them before and after you see them, and also including footage of you preparing meals and some of the other things that you do during the course of the marathon and what have you. This is all sort of the fun of it. But some of the guys have taken to concocting elaborate comedy sketches that are film-related in some way. Luke actually asked me to participate in his video from last year, so that was a great deal of fun. So some of these guys may end up doing something like that in this year's marathon, and I might do something like that too. I haven't made up my mind yet. We'll see. But I'm planning on doing my marathon sometime during March, probably towards the end of March. We'll see about that. So I should have my video completed probably in early to mid-April. In any case, I hope that you'll tune in for that. A couple other things I want to talk about that aren't related to a marathon of any kind. Over the past few years, I've noticed that more and more movies are not including their title at the beginning of the film. This is something that happened that I noticed only occasionally in years past. I'm used to seeing, at the very least, a title at the beginning of a movie, or very close to the beginning. Say, you might have a pre-credit sequence or a collection of scenes that sort of set up the movie before the title appears and lets you know, now we're really underway here with the story. And when you have a collection of scenes, when a movie starts and you have scenes and dialogue and what have you, always figure, well, the title's going to come up. Because this is the pre-credit part, but the title never comes. In fact, the title doesn't actually come until the end of the movie. And I'm sure that a lot of younger moviegoers are used to this right now, because some very, very popular movies like Avatar and The Dark Knight and others have gone without any titles at all at the beginning of the movie. Not even the title of the movie. That was sort of popularized excuse me, by Star Wars, which was one of the first movies to just have the title at the very beginning and no other credits at all. I don't mind the lack of credits because I know they're coming at the end, but I want, if I feel there's no title, not even the titles at the beginning of the movie, that something has been left undone, that we really haven't even started yet, and it sort of creates a sense of unease. And there's a couple of movies that's actually worked well for. One is The Ring, which was directed by Gore Verbinski, Naomi Watts' horror movie, which is a very uneasy movie, and so the sense of unease I get from not seeing the title appear at the beginning sort of added to that. The other is the classic film Apocalypse Now by Francis Ford Coppola. That movie had no credits of any kind at all when it was released. Instead, when you went to the theater to see the film, you got a little booklet with all the credits in it. There were video releases that had the titles and the credits at the end of the movie rather than at the beginning, but it's one of those pictures where it's just so enthralling right from the beginning that, you just sort of forget that the title hasn't been shown. At least that's how it worked for me. But ever since Thor and Captain America the First Avenger had no titles at the beginnings of the movie, I, sort of grew more frustrated with this trend, and so I started compiling this list of movies that I noticed had no title at the beginning. And this is a partial list, of course, because I haven't seen every single movie that's come out in the last, 20 years or so there could be a lot more of them. But just as a sampler, Ain't Them Body Saints, Anomalisa, Apocalypse Now, Avatar, Batman Begins, Blue is the Warmest Color, Captain America the First Avenger, Captain America the Winter Soldier, Chronicle, Clouds of Sils Maria, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, The Dark Knight Rises, Drinking Buddies, The Drop, Edge of Tomorrow, The Equalizer, Ender's Game, Ex Machina, The Hunger Games Catching Fire, Inception, Into the Woods, Iron Man 3, Joy, Last Action Hero, The Lego Movie, Magic Mike XXL, Man of Steel, The Mummy Returns, Punch Drunk Love, The Ring, RoboCop 2, Selma, Sicario, Silver Linings Playbook, Solaris, Still Alice, Thor, The Tree of Life, Unfriended, Water for Elephants, The Wolf of Wall Street, and The Wolverine. These are all movies that didn't even bother showing the title at the beginning, and that's, something that I'm not pleased about. I hope that this trend reverses itself at some point in the near future, because I'm getting a little tired of it. I guess it doesn't bother me as much now as it did back when I first started noticing this more and more, but still, it feels like we haven't really gotten started. The movie here really hasn't started until they at least show the title after a couple of scenes. So, anyway, that's my little pet peeve. I also wanted to talk a little bit about upcoming Marvel movies. Any day now, I expect a new Captain America Civil War trailer to come out. It's only 2 months until the movie gets released. They've only released one trailer so far. I figure they've got to release at least one more before the movie actually comes out. So I've been waiting and waiting. I figure any day now it could come out. So I'd probably do a reaction video or whatever, but it's coming very soon. So that's exciting. And although I'm excited for the new Batman versus Superman movie, I'm not under the impression that it will be better than Civil War. I'm pretty sure that Civil War will end up being a better movie. Anyway, Civil War has a huge cast, and I've been keeping extra careful track of the Marvel movies that are in the pipeline. This November we've got Doctor Strange, and I think that Doctor Strange will introduce one of the Infinity Stones, the Time Stone, which could be the green glowing thing in the middle of the Doctor Strange's amulet, the Eye of Agamotto. This is something that I've read about. The Eye of Agamotto apparently has the ability to manipulate time or mess with it or something like that. So I'm like, oh, well, it could be the Time Stone. They've already introduced the Power Stone, the Reality Stone, the Space Stone, and the Mind Stone, of course. And there's only 2 left to complete the gems in the Infinity Gauntlet. That would be the Soul Stone and the Time Stone. A green gem and an orange gem. So the Soul Stone's got to be orange, and the Time Stone has to be the green one that Doctor Strange has in his possession. Benedict Cumberbatch, of course, plays Doctor Strange. The movie's being directed by Scott Derrickson, who did the sci-fi remake of The Day the Earth Stood Still with Keanu Reeves and Jennifer Connelly. Also, you've got Rachel McAdams, Chiwetel Ejiofor, a whole bunch of other people in that movie. Then that's November. Next year, in May, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is being directed by James Gunn, who did the first one. You've got the return of most of the principal cast, including Karen Gillan and Glenn Close and Michael Rooker, but the addition is Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell is going to be joining that cast. Then in July of 2017, the new Spider-Man movie is due to come out. This one's being released by Sony, but they're making it in partnership with Marvel to hopefully improve that which could stand improving in previous Spider-Man movies. John Watts is the director. He did an indie thriller called Cop Car with Kevin Bacon. And Tom Holland, of course, is going to be playing Peter Parker, and he is due to make an appearance in Civil War as well. In November of 2017, Thor Ragnarok, the third Thor solo movie, is being directed by a guy named Taika Waititi. I believe that's how you say his name. He is one of the co-directors of the vampire mock doc What We Do in the Shadows, which is a movie I like very much. Most of the cast will probably be returning. Mark Ruffalo, who plays Bruce Banner, is set to also be in the film as well in some capacity. However, I can't be sure that the Earthbound characters, played by Natalie Portman and Stellan Skarsgård and Kat Dennings, are going to show up in this movie. They might not. It might not take place on Earth at all, which would sort of rule them out. We'll see about that. Then there's Black Panther, which is a character that's also going to get introduced in Civil War. He's played by Chadwick Boseman. He is from the country of Wakanda that got trashed by the Hulk, or at least one of its cities got trashed by the Hulk in Age of Ultron. Ryan Coogler is the director. He did Creed, of course, a recent Oscar-nominated film Creed, and Fruitvale Station, both of which star Michael B. Jordan, but it's Chadwick Boseman who's going to be playing Black Panther, a.k.a. King T'Challa, in the movie. Also, Andy Serkis is due to be in it as the same character he played in Age of Ultron. And possibly also Martin Freeman. Martin Freeman is in Civil War. He gets his character is introduced in that, and he may end up being in Black Panther 2. Don't know for sure about that. Then in May, that's due to come out in February of 2018. In May of 2018, we get the first Avengers Infinity War movie, directed by the Russos, who are, of course, are doing Civil War and previously did The Winter Soldier. There'll be a whole bunch of, big honking cast in that one. And even more people in Avengers Infinity War Part 2, which is to come out in May the following year. We'll have Josh Brolin as Thanos, probably get the Guardians of the Galaxy finally meeting the other Marvel characters. And we may have also a character called Adam Warlock, who might be the guy who provides the sixth and final Infinity Stone, the Soul Stone. From what I've read, that's a definite possibility, so we'll see about that. No person thus far has been cast as Adam Warlock. In the meantime, between those two episodes, we'll have a sequel to Ant-Man called Ant-Man and the Wasp, which will probably end up being directed by the guy who did the first Ant-Man movie, Peyton Reed. That's right, Peyton Reed. And so that would most likely star Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, and Michael Douglas again. And then in March of 2019, just 2 months before Infinity War Part 2, we'll have Captain Marvel, who is, of course, also known as Carol Sanders. She gets hit by alien technology or alien DNA or something like that. She's a human, but then she gains superpowers and ends up joining the Avengers as a good guy. Don't know who's going to play this character, don't know who's going to direct it. That's a little bit far off from now. But we'll be hearing about that pretty soon, I'm sure. Who knows if that character will make her debut with that movie or whether or not she'll be introduced in one of the movies to come before it. Possibly in Thor Ragnarok or Guardians Part 2. Certainly a possibility there. In any case, that's what's going on with Marvel. I'm reading a lot about these movies when they come out, also reading about the comics history of some of these characters. So I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on some of the stuff that's going to be happening. But of course, looking for the movies themselves because of whatever surprises they have in store. I'm enjoying Marvel movies on the whole very much. It's kind of like my new Star Wars right here. When I was a kid, I was super into Star Wars. As an adult, I'm super into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I'm staying kid. I'm going to stay a kid forever, I guess. So there's my little update right there. Don't forget to check the link below for Ryan Chattaway's marathon video if you want to take a look at that. Thanks very much for watching. Thanks to the people who have subscribed to me very recently and left me nice comments on my videos. I appreciate it very much. I'll see you again real soon. Later.